The quality of light over the past few weeks, so now we'll start our unit on lighting quantity and calculations. This presentation covers the first step, which is to figure out how much light we'll need. Subsequent portions of this tutorial will show you how to figure out how much light you'll get from a specific fixture when used in a particular application. That part is forthcoming. So for now, let's just focus on how much light we want in our space. The Illuminating Engineering Society of North America, as you know by now, is the governing body for the lighting industry, made up of professionals in the lighting field. Designers, engineers, manufacturers, lighting educators, and representatives of lighting equipment are all represented within the IESNA. This professional organization writes books such as the IES Handbook and many of the recommended practices for lighting specific building types. They also create the rules for lighting design. One of the committees on the IESNA created the Lighting Design Guide, which includes the charts we're going to cover in today's lesson. Members of this committee study in detail all possible tasks that could require illumination and select a light level they feel is appropriate. Just about anything you can think of is included in this chart. As for example, milking a cow. Somebody actually crawled under the cow with a foot candle meter to see how much light looked appropriate. Oh, and everything is peer-reviewed, so a second person had to crawl under that cow and make sure the first guy was correct. In your download, we've included all the charts for interiors. The IESNA also has charts for exteriors, sports, and industrial applications, should you ever need them. But these are the bulk of what you'll need for interior design projects. These charts are divided by building type, then by task. Here's a snippet from one of the interior charts, which you can find on page 11 of your packet. Under the topic of hotel, they've broken down the tasks that can take place in a hotel. Keep in mind that the IESNA tries to include all the tasks in each building type, but it's virtually impossible to expect them to cover everything. In some instances, you may have to look up a task under a different topic. One example of this is artwork. If you look up art, you find art galleries, see museums. Then you go to museums and have to choose flat displays on vertical surface, which is found on page 13 of your packet. This is the best approximation for how much light is needed for a piece of art. The front page of your charts looks like this and divides light levels into categories. The first three categories, A, B, C, are simply for orientation in public spaces and simple tasks. Tasks that might fit into this category include circulation, waiting areas, or reading a computer screen, which is self-illuminated. Most of your common tasks fit into the D, E, F categories. This is where you'd find reading, sewing, working with tools, and other common tasks. Category G is reserved for tasks that require a lot of light, medical procedures, manufacturing computer chips, and more. On the right side of this chart here, you'll notice two sets of numbers. The first column that says LX is the metric measurement for lighting, or lux, which is what you'd need if you're doing a Canadian or other international project. In this class, we're more concerned with the second set in parentheses, which lists recommended foot candles. One foot candle is roughly 10 lux, so it's easy to convert. So here's a typical page out of your IES Lighting Design Guide. On the left, we look up our building type and tasks. Then we go over to the columns on the right and read the letter that tells us our category that we'll find back on page 1. Notice here there are two columns with letters on them. The first one tells us horizontal values for tasks that occur on a horizontal surface like a desk. The second column tells us vertical values, or how much light is needed on the vertical surface. This is more appropriate for shelves or artwork. Before choosing your illuminance category, think about the task you're going to be doing. Let's just look at this page for a second. If we're designing a bank, we'll see that we need category C, over here, category C for horizontal foot candles in a lobby. Looking that up, it's 10 foot candles. In the waiting area, or writing area, where people may be reading magazines or balancing checkbooks while they wait to see their banker, we now need to look at category D, which gives us a value of 30 foot candles. In the teller area, where the task is more critical, we read across here, and the recommendations jump up to 50-foot candles, or category E. These different tasks have different lighting requirements. There are reasons we may need to add additional light beyond what the IES recommends. The first reason is the age of the users. You learned way back in week 1 that older people have more issues with vision, yellowing lenses, weak muscles in the iris, and potentially cataracts, etc. So older people require more light. In fact, a 40-year-old person, which I don't think is old, only has half as much light reaching the back of the retina as a 20-year-old. So when we're looking at a big group of people who are over 55, we'd naturally want to add more light to help them accomplish their tasks. I'd recommend going up to the next category. The second reason to add more light is the finishes in the space. If we have more dark finishes, we won't have nearly as much light bouncing around the space as if we had all white walls. So when we're looking at mostly finishes below 20 or 30%, we'll want to consider going up to the next category. Finally, we look at speed and accuracy. Although this is generally built into the IES design guide, it's something to consider when choosing light levels. If we're lighting a pharmacy where employees are reading labels with fine print and dispensing many drugs with similar names, I'd want to be safe and add more light to prevent costly errors. Let's talk a little bit more about foot candles. Although doubling the foot candles seems like it would create twice as much light, the eye doesn't perceive a difference until we get to 3 times the light. So if we want something to stand out against its surroundings, we'll need to triple the foot candle value. If we want to give something more of a highlight, we might go to 5 times the foot candles. And if we're really trying to make a statement or focal point, then we go up to 10 times the foot candles, or even 20 times the foot candles. Going beyond 20 creates a little too much contrast and can interfere with vision, so use that as your outside limits. Going back to our bank example, we had 10 foot candles in the lobby, 30 foot candles in the writing area, and 50 foot candles, or 5 times 10, at the teller. It fits our 1 to 3 to 5 rule listed up here. And it works. IES recommendations give us a starting point, but as a designer we can always boost the numbers in areas where we want more emphasis. If I were putting artwork or signage on the walls, I'd probably make sure it was at least 50 foot candles so it attracts the attention of the customers. When applying these ratios to your design, always start with your lowest values, usually the kept circulation zone. If you're trying to design a space with more contrast, you should look at these values here with a 1 to 5 to 10 ratio to create more drama. Using the information in this presentation, go ahead and complete the tutorial and do some of the practice problems to help you assess your understanding. Once you know how much light you'll need, it becomes easier to select sources and luminaires that will help you achieve the desired results. Good luck!